Hey, everybody. Yeah, I know I'm a little shaky. I'm zoomed in because right there. If we had a little breeze, it'd look better, but that's what you get today. Everybody's got stuff on here about 9/11. That was my plan too. Look around at what we appreciate, look around at our freedoms, listen to the four wheeler go by. Alan Jackson said it best. Where were you when the world stopped turning? So, if you want to tell me where you were when the world stopped turning, you can leave a comment. I was living in Banks, Oregon at the time, a little over 20 miles away. I want to say it was like 7:15 when I made it in the house here and got in there to talk to Dad. He was watching the news. I think I was about halfway here when it hit the news on the radio. I stood there with Dad, called my wife, and said, "Hey, turn the TV on." And just about the time she was turning the TV on, Dad and I watched that second plane hit the towers. And I told Dad, I said, "Oh, that first one wasn't an accident." And he says something about another plane hitting someplace. And apparently the Traveler just sat down on the ground, 3-point settled. That kind of spooked me because I'm sitting on the tractor. Anyway, lots of things have happened since then. Thankfully, nothing is bad. At the time, I had been just a couple of years since I'd been on the fire department. I spent 20 years as a volunteer in the county, 2 different stations, 2 different districts. And, I watched 343 of my brothers perish that day. I know it's going to be sideways, but that's what that's for. The crest and the 343 and the flag for them. The ghost flames for me because I burned everything off of that arm. Second and third degree burns on 80% of it. And luckily had a very holistic doctor that I got to go see who said, "Vitamin E oil, kid, and triple antibiotic, and don't go playing in the dirt for a few weeks." I did get a little infection right in the middle. Yeah, I know you can't see it. Yeah, you can. Right next to that top star, there's a little white dot, and there's a couple other spots similar. That's where the scar wouldn't take the ink. But anyway, that's what that is for. And I'm not going to be able to see it, but maybe you can. Yeah, we'll go like this. Maybe you'll see it. The Fighting Eagle that I got while visiting a friend of mine in Georgia. Young feller named Chris at tattoo shop down there in Statesboro. He had my idea. He understood what I wanted and did it, and it's faded. That was done while we were still at war about 10 different places. So anyway, I just gabbed too much. The kids were little. Number 1 was about 3 years old. Number 2 was about a year and a half old. Number 1 kind of had a clue. Number 2, she was starting to gab a little bit. Not a lot, but a little. And we did a lot of explaining over the next few years to them, so they understand patriotism, and they understand, when you mess with the wrong thing, bad things will happen. They've done a good job standing up for themselves over the years. When they were in school and had issues, wife and I, we talked to a couple teachers once in a while, but we just tell the teachers, it's a kid's problem. Hope you figure it out. And they would come to some kind of understanding. So anyway, see if I can get really steady here. See if I get back in frame. If I lean on the steering wheel and tell my heart to stop beating, yeah, I guess that's not going to happen. So, not a lot can be said about today. It happened. It left a hell of a scar. For the most part, I think we got most of the retaliation taken care of. There's still some factions out there that aren't the greatest, and hey, look at there, there's a breeze. We can watch her fly. Thank you for watching. Say, leave a comment. Say where you were, what you were doing. We can gab about it all day, or we can remember it and get some work done today. I got things to do, so hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell, ding-a-ling, and leave me a comment, because I am curious. Where were you? What were you doing? I know where I was. I told you where I was. Didn't get a lot done that day. I got done what had to be done, and spent time with family, because that's what you do. And I think of those who gave their all pretty much every day. They didn't plan on not going home that night. And all the people in the towers, they didn't plan on not going home. And a little side note, my mother-in-law used to do foreign exchange students. And they were there in the towers like 2 days before. Their plane came home the night before. She had just gotten home and was in bed asleep, obviously, with the time change and having a long week there. She also worked for FEMA part of the time. They'd call her in on a couple of things. She got that started when there was a really bad flood in Vernonia that in 96. She was volunteering there, and then FEMA came in and they said, well, you got everything handled. Here, you have a job now. So she was actually on one of the very first planes that was not military to go back into the sky after 9/11. And she spent, I want to say it was 3 or 4 months there working for FEMA and dealing with people. And her hotel room was literally 2 blocks from ground zero. Her office was like 1.5 blocks from ground zero. So it does get home. My wife had issues with that for a while. She was, God, if it would have been the day before or 2 days before, my mom would have been there. Well, a lot of people, luck of the draw, for some reason they didn't go to work or whatever. I know there was people that were supposed to be on one of those planes that for some reason they weren't. And, had some on a plane that was landed in a field because they knew they weren't going to make it home. So they made sure that there was less destruction than there could have been. They're all heroes. Never forgive, never forget. Thanks for watching.